Euromaxx highlights. And here's your host, Louise Houghton.
Thanks for tuning into the Highlight Show, everyone. Let's start by taking a look at what's coming up over the next half an hour. Sun King, the lasting legacy of Louis XIV of France. A Matter of Taste, an interactive food museum opens in London. And New Dimensions, the fast-moving world of video streaming. Louis XIV of France went down in history as the Sun King and the epitome of the absolute ruler. This patron of the arts reigned for more than half a century with amazing opulence, creating a wonderful legacy for legends, books and movies. Millions of tourists visit the Palace of Versailles, just outside Paris, each year. This is the former court and seat of residence of the French ruler. From the end of October, a special exhibition there will mark the 300th anniversary of the monarch's death.
Louis XIV, or in French, Louis XIV. The Sun King's radiance shone far beyond the realm of France, as did his infamy.
Wigs,
yeah.
Extravagance, food,
Yeah.
luxury, decadence.
Versailles.
Versailles, the Sun King, the grandeur of France, promoting the arts.
Développement des arts.
All this way too expensive stuff, way too expensive buildings and large parks.
His most famous gardens are in Versailles, southwest of Paris. Louis had the palace built in the mid-17th century to be his residence and seat of government. A new exhibition at the palace examines the Sun King's death 300 years ago. The court mourned for a set number of days. Even the king's passing followed a rigid protocol.
He died as he lived, on public display. He was bedridden in his final days, but he still governed from his room in the heart of the palace. He held his usual morning and evening receptions, and the luncheons were still public. He consulted his ministers, continued to govern the kingdom, and, in addition, he arranged for his succession.
Louis XIV was just 4 years old when he ascended the throne in 1643. His mother appointed a chief minister to govern. When the minister died, Louis assumed power at age 22. He made himself the absolute monarch, a regent of superlatives.
He not only exerted influence, he governed. He was the one who had the say. He gave the orders. He was the king who ruled. It had nothing to do with today's constitutional monarchy. It was actually Louis who gave all the instructions.
The embodiment of this absolute power is the Palace of Versailles, the zenith of European palatial architecture, copied by monarchs everywhere. Louis XIV laid the cornerstone for Paris's famed Champs-Élysées. The Dôme des Invalides is another creation of Louis's architects. Louis XIV became synonymous with the style of an era.
You keep finding the same stylistic elements, whether on a little case or on an enormous building. Its design vocabulary is a code for the spirit of those times. The taste for colors and contrast, for example. And, of course, a taste for luxury and gold.
And for fashion. Under the Sun King, Paris became Europe's capital of style and the birthplace of haute couture in its present form. The city still inspires international designers, among them the French fashion house Chanel. Louis XIV was a patron of numerous artists, musicians, poets and authors. He himself took center stage as the figure of the Sun King and took on mythical dimensions that inspire creative spirits everywhere. The new exhibition in Versailles is expected to attract thousands of visitors. Louis XIV is always a tourist magnet.
He was the greatest king in the world. That's why he's being celebrated here, even though he was once hated by the French, because he was a very warlike king.
It was our greatest hour. He embodied France's most glorious era.
Louis XIV was himself entirely consumed with his function as king. He embodied everything that was the state. At the end of his life, he said, "I depart, but the state shall always remain."
During his reign, he was feared by all. Today, his cultural legacy retains its fascination, even beyond France's borders.
Now, I've heard of an architect and of a chef, but never before have I heard of a food architect. But it makes sense. Sam Bumpus and Harry Parr essentially play with the structure of their food, creating houses out of jelly or inventing gum that changes taste. They certainly like to experiment. Now they've launched a food museum project near Borough Food Market in London. It is an interactive experience that's fun for all ages.
An English breakfast made from wool. Things are not always what they seem at the British Museum of Food. It was founded by Sam Bumpus and Harry Parr, both from Britain. This video installation is part of the exhibition and was taken with a pill-sized camera normally used by doctors. It shows how food travels through our bodies. The duo Bumpus and Parr is known for their unusual food projects. So, of course, their museum had to be something special too.
I think the idea of like classical museums, which are sort of like ossuaries or sort of like temples to precious objects, is becoming more and more antiquated. So here at the museum, you don't just come to look at things, you don't just even come to look at other people looking at things as well, which is what museums are normally good at. You come to interact with one another.
That prospect is especially inviting at the installation, The Butterfly Effect. It boasts tropical temperatures, artificial sunlight, and 400 butterflies flitting about the room. But what are butterflies doing in a food museum? It's simple. They play a vital role in the pollination of fruits like bananas, a staple food for many people around the globe. Chocoholics should head for Chocophonica, where visitors take part in a survey. While eating chocolate, they're exposed to various sounds. Afterwards, they rate their taste experience. The results will be analyzed at Oxford University, which is studying how noise affects our sense of taste. Visitors like the museum's concept.
I thought it was great. It's not quite what we expected, but certainly a very enjoyable experience.
I've never been to a museum that's so interactive.
It is very different to other museums I've been to. I work in a museum in Ireland, and it's a much more conventional museum, so it's very nice to see something pushing the boundaries of museum work.
My philosophy is if you give people a really engaging time, most people are very inquisitive and they'll start asking questions. Of course, we then make the message available for people.
Sam Bumpus and his partner Harry Parr have been getting their message out creatively for years. In 2007, they became known as the Jellymongers for creating architecture out of jelly. Ever since, the duo has delved into new culinary terrain. They've barbecued over molten lava and sent coffee beans 37 kilometers into orbit on a helium balloon. Back on Earth, the beans became space coffee. In 2015, Bumpus and Parr served up a 200-course menu in London. The meal lasted 24 hours.
When we're working with food, we've always tried to look at the things that get people really excited. There are normally very few foods which universally put a smile on people's faces. They tend to be things like coffee, chocolate, alcohol and meat. And those are the things that when they come to the table, everyone's faces light up.
Next to the museum, they've opened Alcoholic Architecture, a walk-in cloud bar that dispenses breathable cocktails. Visitors wander through the alcoholic cloud wearing plastic ponchos, so that at least their clothes stay dry. Here you can get tipsy just from breathing, though regular drinks are on offer too.
The bar alcoholic architecture gives you a drinking experience you've never had before. You have the ultimate bragging rights next time you go out to any other bar with your friends and a better story to tell.
The Food Museum is slated to remain open for 3 months, but Bumpus and Parr are looking for investors willing to give it a permanent home. Then the British Museum of Food would really become the institution it ought to be.
Our next report takes us to a region called Lesser Poland, or Malopolska in Polish. It's located in the very south of Poland and it's rich in history and tradition. One of the many things you can see here is the breathtaking views of the Tatras mountain range. We joined up with a professional mountain guide for a rather exclusive tour.
In the very south of Poland, near the Slovak border, you'll find impressive mountain landscapes. This is the world of mountain guide Piotr Konopka, who has climbed peaks around the world, from the Andes and the Rockies to the Himalayas. But his favorite mountain is the Risi, right here in the High Tatras.
The Tatras are probably the world's lowest high mountain range. The landscape has the feel of tall mountains, but in fact the highest peak is just 2,655 meters.
Piotr has been guiding visitors here professionally for more than 30 years. But in his free time, he also loves to go climbing.
It's all very accessible. There are well-equipped huts in every valley, and the views are great.
Andrzej Łapsa also enjoys the views as he pilots tourists around the High Tatras.
It's harder flying in the mountains because the weather keeps changing all the time. Take today. It's really windy and there's lots of turbulence, but all the challenges are offset by the amazing views.
Zakopane is a famous resort for winter sports. Nearby is the village of Kokołów. The village, which has had landmark status for more than 50 years, is famous for its traditional wooden houses from the 19th century. Kokołów is on the Jarny Dunajec River, which feeds into the Dunajec. A great way to explore the region is by raft.
The tradition of rafting grew out of logging. Timber was sent down the Dunajec into the Vistula and then all the way to the Baltic. Later on, goods were transported by raft, and nowadays people are.
Where the Dunajec enters Chorstin Lake stands Niedzica Castle. It was built in the 14th century by a Hungarian nobleman. For centuries, it served as a border post between Poland and Hungary. One of the attractions is a well that's 60 meters deep.
There is a legend about this well. Brunhilde and Boguslav once lived in this castle. They fought a lot. And one day, an angry Boguslav threw Brunhilde down the well. She came back to haunt him as a ghost, but she eventually forgave him.
Now both of them are said to haunt the castle. We now head north away from the mountains to Bochnia, a town famous for its salt mine. It was already operating in the 13th century. Mining ended here in the early 20th century. Some of the galleries and chambers deep below the surface are now open to visitors. In 2013, UNESCO declared the mine a World Heritage Site. Łukasz Panek is a tour guide and knows all the old legends about the mine.
This is our salt garden. It often drips here, and if a drop of water lands on your head, it'll make you smarter. If it lands on your outstretched hand, you'll become rich. But if it lands on your neck or back, you'll have to work, and you'll become a hunchback.
Natomiast jeżeli komuś kapnie na szyję lub na plecy, no to będzie miał garba od ciężkiej pracy.
Meanwhile, Andrzej Łapsa is on his last tour of the day.
I think about flying every day. I always want to be up in the sky. It's so wonderful.
Especially when you're flying above the beautiful landscapes of southern Poland.
Well, at the end of the day, a lot of people enjoy a nice glass of wine to relax, maybe while listening to some music. Strangely enough, music and wine fit very well together, and that's a concept that's created as early as in the distillery room. You see, some vineyards have taken to using the vibrations from classical music to help with the fermentation process. We headed out to a vineyard in Germany to find out the science behind these musical wines.
The southern German region of Pfalz, home to many good wines. A select few are produced with the aid of classical music. Vintner Christian Butz from the town of Hochstadt has been using this method for 4 years. In 2006, he took over his parents' vineyard and later turned operations around completely. Today, his musical wine accounts for more than half his production.
Here we have a 2014 Pinot Blanc, dry in the glass. It was treated with classical music and natural acoustics. The treatment makes the wine very soft, creamy, full flavored, and at the same time, delicately fruity.
For about 10 weeks, the wine tanks are exposed to selected compilations of music by, for example, Brahms, Mozart or Vivaldi. Christian Butz calls his wine compositions 8-beat sound inside. He uses special technology.
I play a perfectly ordinary audio CD, and this ultrasound converter transposes the frequency into ultrasound waves.
A vibration transmitter conveys these ultrasound waves directly into the fermenting wine. The frequency of the waves is about 200,000 hertz, 10 times higher than what a conventional loudspeaker can produce.
Thanks to this vibration transmitter and the round stainless steel tank, the vibrations are reflected. This has a mixing effect that keeps stirring the yeast during the fermentation process. It keeps the yeast and bacteria in suspension. And the result is that during fermentation, the wine takes on a creamier quality.
Yeast is important for wine production. It's what turns juice into alcohol. Christian Butz has assembled quite a selection of wines treated this way, rosé and red wine, and this year he has begun marketing a Riesling. The Japanese scientist Masaru Emoto has investigated the effects of vibrations on liquids. He exposed water to music and is convinced that this process produced different crystalline structures when the sample of water was subsequently frozen.
The same thing happens with wine. The liquid structure of the wine is altered, making it softer, more harmonious, with more delicate fruit notes. That's the perceptible effect, confirmed in wine tastings where people are not told what they're drinking.
A friend of the vintner, Dirk Kolberg, came up with the idea of enhancing wine with sound waves. The musician and alternative health practitioner had already successfully treated his patients with vibrations.
What works for the organism, influencing it with vibrations, could also function with wine. And I thought it must be more effective if you influence the molecules directly during the fermentation process. To do this, we needed the trick of using ultrasound frequencies, so that we can intervene much more intensely and deeply in the structure of these molecules.
Using sound studio software, Dirk Kohlberg puts together various pieces of music to apply to the wine. To intensify the effect, white noise is laid over the music, and then his composition is ready. Other vintners, for example in South Africa and Italy, also expose their wines to classical music. Each winemaker has his or her own method. There is no scientific evidence that such wines are actually better, but they do seem to be a hit with some customers. Frank Schulte has been a sommelier and lecturer on wine and health for more than 15 years.
I host wine tastings with people from all over the world. When the tasting includes wines treated with sound, in almost all cases, a Blanc de Noir, for example, that was exposed to music, unfolds its qualities better. People taste the fruit much more intensely.
With or without music, ultimately, the criterion for wine quality is personal taste.
Well, these days, if it's not by socialising, a lot of people turn to their smart devices for entertainment. Social media sites are now a brilliant platform for young creatives to establish brands, companies and film content. We just can't help but be intrigued, can we? Well, many of these people have managed to make a living out of their popular posts, and with new high-speed streaming technology in development, it seems that video on demand is the way of the future.
A smartphone and an additional wide-angle lens. That's all Sebastian Linde needs for his videos. He also edits the videos on his device, doing some fine-tuning and adding a few special effects. Then the filmmaker from Dresden uploads his clips onto Instagram. He uses the videos to keep fans up to date about his upcoming projects.
It's an exciting opportunity, but I'm still going to work on bigger projects. Sure, these clips can go viral. A cool shot can get a couple 100,000 views. But I prefer telling stories, spending more time on them, so they have a more lasting impact.
His half-hour documentary, The Journey of the Beasts, is a good example. For that film, Sebastian accompanied 10 pro skaters through Indonesia. The film won Germany's 2015 Web Video Prize in the Best Camera category. Sebastian originally uploaded the clip on the popular video portal Vimeo. That way users could access it on demand. With improved transfer rates nowadays, even high-res films can be uploaded quickly. Online streaming platforms are becoming increasingly diverse. Services like Amazon Prime Instant Video and Netflix offer popular TV series and feature-length films for a subscription fee. YouTube is also adapting to new consumer behavior. According to YouTube content manager Ben McOwen-Wilson, the platform is focusing on long-form content.
People thought it was all about short-form content as YouTube emerged, but actually people like Vice are showing that you can get really, really strong viewing figures for 30, 55-minute pieces of high-quality content.
More people are producing and viewing videos on mobile devices. Digital expert Richard Gutia says the trend's set to continue.
Until now, mobile networks were too weak to transfer video properly. You'd always get that bar or that small turning wheel. But the new G5 mobile network generation will offer transfer rates that are faster than any fiber optic cable that we have today.
The new mobile network standard will be available in about 5 years, offering speeds of 6 gigabits per second. High-res videos will download in seconds. The shift to mobile viewing is also creating new platforms. The Vine app focuses on 6-second loops and stop-motion tricks. The Snapchat Messenger service focuses on vertical videos. Sebastian Linde appreciates the diversity that's available today.
It's becoming more relevant because more people are online. More people have PCs and smartphones that can stream. Apps keep getting better, so it'll keep developing.
Sebastian still makes videos for Instagram, as well as working on his long-format projects. Once he's completed his next film, it too will premiere online.
And you can always keep up to date with our posts online on Facebook. I'm always posting things on my page, and we have a number of things on Euromaxx too. Time now, though, to say goodbye. So until next time, take care. Cheers.